Hey everyone, welcome to another video. Today we'll be talking about dioramas. If you didn't already know, I post most of my work on Instagram, link in the description, and one of the most popular types of projects that I post on there has been dioramas. Usually these are small scale projects where I create a specific moment in the movies or in the books. So if you scroll on my Instagram page, you'll see ones from, for example, from Return of the King between Gandalf and Pippin, recent Boromir dioramas that I've did covering the final moments before his death. People have liked seeing me work on dioramas, so today I'm going to give my top 3 tips on how to make a great diorama. So there are many tips you can find on the internet about painting or building terrain or guides to improve your technical skill, but today I'll be covering important concepts to keep in mind when you choose a specific scene that you want to create. So, number 1, the angle. You hear this word a lot when you're talking about things like photography or filming, and I think in terms of dioramas, you always want to pick an angle that you intend the viewers to look at the diorama from. So this usually means that there is a certain ideal angle for the viewer. Of course, there are some dioramas where they are built more of an open kind of build where you can look at it from any angle. Army display boards, for example. But I think in terms of focusing on a scene, I think the picking one angle, if you want to create a specific scene, particularly a vignette, which is like a mini diorama, it is very important to pick an ideal angle where you want to tell the story. So, for example here, in my diorama, A Far Green Country, this scene was to recreate the scene from The Return of the King, where Gandalf and Pippin retreat to the upper levels of the city and are having a talk behind the doors as a troll is beating down the gate. So the men of Gondor and the door I have included in the background, while the center of attention are on Gandalf and Pippin. So even though the build is stretched long, as you can see here, where one end it's the troll on the other side and the other are our 2 main characters, the intended angle is to have Pippin and Gandalf in the front and the rest of the diorama in the background. Similarly, in this example, Boromir's Last Stand, the ideal angle was to see Boromir strike down an Uruk-hai. So this is the center of the storytelling. This is the center of the story and the tension. Of course, Merry and Pippin are also in the scene, and they have been strategically placed in the background between the Uruk-hai and the Boromir, so that when you are seeing the diorama from the intended angle, you can see the hobbits in the background. While them not being the focus of the diorama, they add to the immersiveness of the scene. In the same way, the forest floor adds to the atmosphere of the scene and brings you to the Forest of Amonhed. Number 2, the focus. So ask yourself, what is the focus of the scene? We see dioramas of all sizes, but I encourage smaller dioramas. In my opinion, it is easier to build a good diorama when it is small, when there are 1 or 2 models that are the focus and you don't have a lot going on. Smaller dioramas have the advantage of having less distractions. So when a viewer looks at your diorama, they're able to find the focus right away. That is not to say that large dioramas cannot be good or well executed, but one that is smaller in scale is a lot easier, especially if you are new to building dioramas. So last year, I entered into Armies on Parade and I built the city of Rivendell. As you can see, it was a large, epic scale display board. I spent, I don't even remember, over 100 hours on this build, and it has a lot going on. There are elves on the balcony, there are elves near the gate, there are elves under the waterfall, and compared to the build I did the year before for Armies on Parade, the Assault upon Helm's Deep, while this one was not as impressive technically, I did not spend as much time or money getting supplies for this build. I didn't sink nearly as many hours into it. This one was able to grab more people's attention, including Games Workshop, which they featured me as one of the runner-ups that year. So what's the difference? Well, the Assault upon Helm's Deep has a focus. When the viewer looks at this diorama, their eyes instantly gravitates towards the explosion. I have selected a part of the diorama to focus on, and there is a clear moment in time that I've chosen to tell the story. As for the location of the diorama, it is clear that it is the center where the explosion is taking place. For the Rivendell display, while it is larger in scale, it doesn't have a lot of focus. It is full of details. There are things to look at everywhere. It just doesn't capture the same kind of iconic moment in time. Now, had I painted up the Fellowship, maybe walking on the bridge, leaving Rivendell, that may have been different. Or maybe if I had the Council of Elrond at the center of the Rivendell board, that may have been different. But as it looks right now, it is not nearly as focused. And finally, pick the moment. So what I mean by this is, what is the exact point in time or the exact moment of the scene that you are trying to recreate? Now you might ask, why does it matter? Why does the exact moment matter? Because in order to tell a story, if the audience knows exactly what moment you are trying to relive, it is easier to relate and you evoke more emotion, in my opinion. So it can be from a specific line in the movie, or a specific line in the books, or even if it's a general battle scene, for example, that you're trying to recreate. My Helm's Deep display is a good example for this tip as well, where I picked a very iconic moment in the battle where the forces of goods begin to lose hope at the point where the Deeping Wall is breached. This famous part of the battle where the wall is blown up instantly brings this exact scene to the viewer. Think about what point in time in the battle are you trying to create? Is it a pivotal moment where one side is making a comeback? Or is it when one side is near defeat, where a hero is facing a specific challenge? So in this diorama, Aragorn versus Lurtz, the moment I picked was the most tense moment in the fight scene between Aragorn and Lurtz. It is when Lurtz throws his shield and pins Aragorn against a tree. So I've modeled Lurtz in a charging, aggressive, and dynamic pose, and immediately the audience knows exactly which second of the movie, which second of this fight scene this diorama is recreating. Storytelling doesn't always have to be action either. In this scene, Theoden's death scene is a focus on the emotion and the final conversation between Eowyn and her uncle. Here, I made sure that both characters in this scene are facing each other, looking at each other, and you can tell that the focus is the looks in the two characters' eyes, as you can see that they are conversing and exchanging words like they did in that specific moment in the movie. So here you have it. These are the 3 tips I have. Before you decide to build your diorama, I encourage you to think about these things, and hopefully they will help you in creating your projects. If you like more hobby material, please check out my other videos. Please subscribe to this channel and like this video so that you don't miss out on future content. And also head over to a podcast that I have called Flame of the West, where I invite local hobbyists onto the podcast and we talk about all sorts of hobby related topics. That's it for today. Hope you guys have a good one and see you in the next video.